Every witness on Volume 1 is a non-family member.
I think the first personal experience, honestly, that came from him was my dad was going to have his 60th birthday party up in Wisconsin, and it was in February. We didn't really know if we should go. We had just moved here. We were up there, and we didn't really want to go back up there, especially in February. And Mark looked at me, and he's like, "Wow." He goes, "Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from." And then we just kind of left it at that. But then he came up to me later. Again, we weren't close friends at that time. But he wanted to make a point to me. He says, "You know what?" He goes, "Something happened to my dad years ago." And he explained how his dad just passed away coming home from fishing. And he said, "I'd give anything to spend any time with my dad again. And you can't miss this. You've got to go." And so it was just from that point on, it was like he was just different, but he wasn't a friend. We had a personal tie as if he was like a big brother to me.
A mentor.
Yeah, a mentor.
You know, if you're around Mark very, very long, competence, you know, his competence, his wit, his intelligence comes through real fast. But he had no bad habits. He lived a really clean, exemplary life in every aspect. And he was a kind of person I like to be around.
You know that cliche of the man never had an enemy? He is the prime example of that. He took a genuine interest in you and that guy and that person and that family because he felt that he could learn something from anyone. And he has so many awards, and he's this decorated man, and he still felt that no matter who he ran into, he would take a genuine interest in because he could learn something from them.
And he was the type of guy that you couldn't get mad at no matter what. You could not get mad at Mark Dobbs because he always handled everybody pleasantly in a polite manner. And even if you totally disagreed with what he said, you still liked the guy. He just had, I don't know, I won't say charm, but an honesty about him that you knew that everything he said came from his heart. If there was anything like a project for the city and Mark thought he could fit into that project, he would just jump in with both feet and do it.
Cheryl is the smartest person I know, and beautiful. And she's beautiful inside and out. She's never said an unkind word about anybody. Just always very pleasant and gives everybody a chance. And I remember when they lived next door to us in Millington, she vacuumed the carpet about 4:30 because Mark would get home at 5. She vacuumed it at 4:30, but nobody could walk on it until he got home because she didn't want any footprints.
There's one funny story that Cheryl and I laugh about every time she comes down here. She had come down from Arkansas to work for about a week, and at the time I had 2 cars. I had a sports car and a sedan. Cheryl liked the sedan, and I liked the sports car, so she would drive the sedan to work and I'd drive the sports car. Well, we were going to go out to eat one night, and we both went out to the garage, and I got in the sedan in the passenger side, and she got in the sports car in the passenger side, and we just turned around and looked at each other, and there wasn't anybody driving, and that was one of the funny stories.
When you try to get something like this going and you need volunteer help, it's always nice to have someone like Cheryl because she would volunteer to do things. You never had to ask her. If you did ask her, she said, "Sure, I'll be glad to do that." And so she took a lot of things upon herself to do.
Cheryl was exactly like him, except not as animated. Cheryl was more of a what you see is what you get, real, simple, straightforward, brilliant, and beautiful person. I mean, knowing Cheryl, I mean, she was just you'd be around her, you'd be calm. It's just a calming influence to be around Cheryl. She's so nice, and I never heard her say a bad word about anyone, ever, never. She always had something. If she couldn't say something nice about something, she wouldn't say it. But my heart was broken when I saw her. And I took a look at her and I said, is this what's become of the woman that we knew? Is this it?
For my birthday, she had come down a couple of months before and she had hidden my birthday present under the guest room bed. And so on my birthday, she emailed me or called me and said, you need to go look under the guest room bed. And there was my birthday present. It had been sitting there for months, which means I don't clean under the bed. You know? And she knew that. She knew that.
I lost my son. And so Mother's Day is always hard. And Cheryl knew it. And she didn't make a big deal out of it. She just said, let's go to Keeter Center together. And we always did things on Mother's Day together. So, without saying anything, she just helped.
Street people who would walk by and come in and ask for free bananas, she'd be so courteous to them and nice to them. And then the president of the bank would come in and she would treat him the exact same way and just, and everybody I talked to says, well, you know, Cheryl was my best friend. And I look at him and I said, no, she wasn't. She was my best friend. She was one of the most wonderful people I've ever known. I've been so lucky that she was in my life.
I kept track of his career. I don't know if he paid attention to mine, but I always kind of looked out for him.
You gave him your...
Yeah, I gave him some of my
insignia.
Doodads.
Because he would make grade after he did.
I was a few years ahead of him and older. And, for a young fellow that had started in the enlisted ranks, he had come a long way. And that is very unusual. From a 28-year retired Navy captain, for every 100 young enlisted sailors, there might be one or two, but he was had the intellect, common sense, the patience, and an innate leadership capability. He just had that ability to drag people along behind him and to go after a common cause. His focus was medical and medical administration, medical oversight, and I because I paid attention to his career, I always was checking up on him without his knowledge. I mean, just because I was looking out for him, and I had a few others that I looked out for. My kids, and there were people looking out for me when older than I that helped me. So I know for a fact that at every location, every hospital he went to oversee and to manage medical administration, he improved their performance, improved their scores on inspections. And those inspections are not just paperwork, it's quality of health. I have no doubt that he has prevented people from getting sick over the years. He was so good at what he did that he was selected, and it's a very prestigious selection, to be placed on the Inspection and Survey Board. It's called an INSERV board. And he had a tour of duty. I don't know if you read that, but it's called INSERV. And consequently, he becomes the Inspector General for his specialty throughout the Navy. They made him a captain. He was selected as captain. They saw fit to put him in another prestigious position, which was the detailing shop in Millington, Tennessee. Basically, he's the guy that decides within the rates the medical profession has various subspecialties, and there's a large population of medical enlisted folks, sprinkled around in the Navy and Marine Corps. And basically, he would work with a few troops that he had there in Millington to move people, around the world into jobs, and he would try to find the best fit for all of these positions. And so, kind of a giant Tetris puzzle that you're forever trying to fill holes, and you have emergencies. It's a very difficult, position to hold, and only the hot shots are chosen to be put in those. And generally, the head detailer, and within my profession, for instance, if I had been the head detailer in Millington, Tennessee, I would have been a certain selection for flag rank, for being made an admiral, had I chosen to accept it. So I assumed that old Mark, had he chosen, probably could have become an admiral.
Cheryl did everything over here. Some of the stuff I don't even know that she did. We had to hire 3 people to replace her, and we still don't know what we're doing over here.
We service at all the restaurants, assisted living, hospitals, hotels. I was overwhelmed with the schools and with everything else. So she kind of took over all the schools and would work with the schools hand in hand, email. She knew everyone over at the food service at Central Kitchen by first name. They'd call on a daily basis. See, I have to order my produce a week out from California, and that's what I mean about being overwhelmed. I'd take care of my side, and Cheryl would help me with the school side. If I needed, X amount of extra cases to take care of the schools, she would make sure I added to my order. She also did all my pricing, my future pricing. I ordered produce. I give her the cost. She'd figure, freight and everything else. She'd do all my future pricing. She did all my receiving. Everything that came in, she'd receive on POs, through the computer and stuff.
I was her eyes and her hands here. So whatever she needed, I could get it to her, find it, or give her the information or whatever. It was always funny whenever she got a little flustered with something. I never heard her once say a bad word, a cuss word. Now, me, not so much. Every once in a while, I try to keep my tongue, but her, no. She never said one. The worst one I ever heard her say was shoot. That was it, shoot. That was her big bad word.
Well, she was our financial officer. She did all of our taxes, all the payroll taxes, the income taxes, got it ready for the CPA. She wrote, her signature was on all the checking accounts, savings accounts. In fact, I felt more like I worked for her than she worked for me, because she just did everything, and she was so efficient and so organized. And I had left her in my will the majority portion of this produce company, and because I knew that she would be one who would be capable of taking it and making it work. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. We just have to wait and see.
And Cheryl's business, I can't imagine how they got along without her. She did everything. Cheryl really, from what I understand, Cheryl was the business. Can you imagine a little girl from Arkansas goes down to Texas, learns how to do this produce stuff, comes back here, she's so valuable to them. She says, I'm moving back to Arkansas. I said, yeah, but we still want you to work for us.
She made coming to work fun and interesting, and she was good at making us money, very good at making us money.
Mark was really a young Rotarian. Everywhere he has been, he has moved up the chain exceptionally fast. He was a retired Navy commander, which means he was an 06. I thought in 25 years, he climbed that ladder pretty quickly because he graduated at Arkansas State and got his master's there. In 2007, he came back and settled in an area that he had grown up in, Bull Shoals. And that's when Connie and I first became acquainted with Mark. He was a president-elect. Well, he would have to come to the president-elect training. He would come to the district assemblies, the district conferences. About every 3 or 4 months, we'd see him and socially get together. Then when he was president of his club, he really changed that club around. That particular club wanted to kind of do little projects and keep everything in the background and keep all their money. He encouraged one individual to go on the American wheelchair trip to Mexico. When that man came back, he was so inspired and so powerfully motivated that club began to raise money and give it to buy wheelchairs for little kids that couldn't walk. And that was just showed us that Mark knew how to unite everybody and work it. He stood up, he completed the District Leadership Academy, and he stood up to be considered to be the governor, and he had to go through an interview process, and he was selected.
Our Rotary Club was in desperate need of change, and that's what he did. He hadn't been in Rotary very long when he helped me take over the chili cook-off. I've been doing the chili cook-off for 11 years, I think, 11 or 12 years. And the lady that used to run it with me, she could not do it because of her job. So we needed somebody to step up and do what she had been doing, which was the major event leader. And Mark stepped in and took over. And I was so thankful because, you know, I do a part of it and he does a huge part of it. And we became very good partners in that endeavor. For Rotary, he did more than just, I mean, he did a lot of things to change our club for the better.
I would spend an hour, hour and a half while he's doing the business meeting taking photos of their town. I go into the Chamber of Commerce. So I decided I'd write an article for every single visit. So I wrote a story about every club. And I made pictures and all the stuff, and it's called My View Through the Windshield. So every time we went to visit, they could look on the website and see what I found unique about their town. So it was a very, very fun thing for me to do. On the end of our journey, they were just in newsletters and sent out. On the last day that we saw Mark and Cheryl, it was our end of our
installation banquet.
And we're going to give the gavel to the new governor. Mark wrote my book. He took all of my articles and all of my pictures and all of my stories, and he produced a book for me, and this was his gift to me. And it's got everything that I wrote, everything that I did, and it was their gift, and Mark and Cheryl gave it to me as my gift.
I don't know if you remember when Big Jim passed away, and you know, he passed away on Sunday, and we had Rotary on Thursday, and I did not want to be the leader. That was a tough one. And I called Mark and I said, Mark, I need you. And he said, I'll be there, Sheila. And when I got to where I couldn't talk anymore, Mark was sitting right beside me, and he picked up and where I couldn't anymore. And there were several times like that I needed Mark for Rotary, and he was always there. He was always there anytime I needed him. And I remember how excited he was when he found out that he became district governor. I guess normally it takes a couple times. You don't always get it on your first try. Same as being on the board. I mean, you know, at Mountain Home Rotary, you don't always get it the first time. And he was definitely on cloud nine when he found out that he got district governor. And he encouraged me. He wanted me to run for assistant governor. And I told him that I would be there to help him and do whatever he wanted me to do. But as I was telling Satch, that's kind of changed for me now. It's a little bit harder to go to Rotary now.
When he was the district governor nominee, one of the things that he championed and took on as an assignment He wanted to apply to get a Rotary Arkansas license plate done for the state of Arkansas. Now, we have 4 states in our district, so I doubt if the Oklahomans want to have a license plate here. But the other 2 districts in Arkansas had attempted to get a license plate through before, but it just never could do it. That's why they're so excited. And Mark did a House bill and put it through, and Governor Beebe signed it, and it became an act, which simply means it is now a law. And it would not become effective until January 1st, 2014, but it's through Mark's leadership. He got in touch with our Evanston office, got the artwork done and approved, and what we are attempting to do now is to get a list of all of those Arkansas Rotarians who would like to, as well as the other 2 districts, and we think we'll have a lot of people who would like to do that. And Mark, I told him, I said, Cheryl needs to get that first license plate.
He was a go-getter. I can remember several years ago when we were trying to do some meetings with new members that came into the club. He put together a video, a slideshow, talking about what Rotary was and what we did as a club, and he and Cheryl opened their home up and invited several new members and their spouses over. They were wonderful hosts.
You know, that's a talented couple. Well, those are the kind of couples that you really like to see lead the largest district in North America. There's 82 of our clubs, and they would have made a dynamic team.
You know, we'd come up with new ideas to raise money and new ideas on where to spend money. I mean, I think I was the first one, I'm pretty sure first one to do an international trip for our Rotary Club. Last year, the year before, I went to Central Mexico and did a wheelchair trip, and everybody bitched and moaned, and we don't want to do that, we don't do that. And you know, he just kind of pushed me into, and I said, well, heck, I'll go. Everybody goes normally because it's Jamaica or somewhere else, and nobody want to go to Central Mexico. I said, well, I'm not scared of Central Mexico. I'll go. You know, he just kind of, you know, he pushed me. It didn't push me into that, but he helped me decide that, you know, that was a great thing. And since then, I mean, our Rotary Club has really branched out to do a lot more international programs, and instead of doing all our money local, you know, we're focusing a little bit on international.
She would have been a great supporter for him in that role. And his intention was to visit every Rotary Club in his district during that time. He was planning to be on the road with that. Cheryl figured she'd just port her job along like she can do, but she would definitely be carrying it along and still doing that. So he could have risen to the top of Rotary. He was the co-chair of the Hillbilly Chili Cook-Off, which I think was the major fundraiser for Rotary. And that article, being in the paper with the front page article of the wreck, and then on the front of the second section, quotes from Mark about Hillbilly Chili Cook-Off. It was just hard. They say he's dead on the front page.
I first met Cheryl Dobbs at the dedication of the Donald W. Reynolds Library in October of 2010. And Cheryl and 2 of her friends were here that day and came up after they had visited with the artists, and Cheryl and her 2 friends said, this emphasis on art is so wonderful, and we need to find a way to introduce this community to the tremendous talent that is here. We named our event the Art Odyssey, and we did one in, I believe, 2011. Yes, the first one was in 2011. And we decided that if we had some money, we could really do a nice job next year.
And so the 3 of us ended up there, and we said, you know, there's enough local talent. We should have our own tour of artist studios. Well, Scott and Neila took the idea and ran, and then invited the 3 of us to be on the committee. So we've been on it from the beginning. And Cheryl has played a very big role because she has so many skills. She was able to do the Facebook page. she had a lot of contact with the individual artists from doing that. And she also was our link to the guys who did the web page. So those are going to be hard things for the committee, for the tour to do without.
Over the past 3 years, we probably have serviced, I'm guessing, probably 60 or 70 artists from this area, and they all got to know Cheryl. She played a role in how well the program was developed. She was an organizer of many of the activities that we did. She visited all the studios and got to know all the artists, and they got to know her, and they were all have become very interested in her well-being since that time. She was just has been an invaluable member of the committee, and we miss her quite a bit.
I honestly just don't know who will step into Cheryl's shoes on that committee, because she was the person that just said, okay, I can do this, and she just did it. I mean, that was it.
After the Art Odyssey, every year we have a get-together with the artists so that they can tell us what they think we can do better next year for them and so forth. And so after that meeting, we sent out as co-chairs just thanking the other committee members for making this evening a success and fun for the artists, and told them they were special people. So this is what we got back from Cheryl in May, this last May. Oh my, where do I start? What an awesome year. Everyone is so special and such a delight to work with. We may not stay on agenda, but do we ever have fun? I've told so many people how special this group is, in parentheses, from fearless leaders down to peons, that would be me, in parentheses, and how I truly feel that the team works so well together. We truly have the same focus. Thank you all, and I will end there because words really do not describe how truly I love what we are doing and what has been accomplished. Thank you all, Cheryl.
In January of this year, Mark presented me with an autographed copy, February 1st, 2013. This is the book, that his third novel that he had penned, and you could buy it in Barnes & Noble. He didn't want to say much about this because he didn't want to jinx it. But they were looking at this, possibly a person in Hollywood, to maybe make it a motion picture.
It was quite an interesting book, and Mark had done a good job of driving home the impact, the possible impact of some of the fracking in the drilling for natural gas that was going on down in central Arkansas. And in fact, had an option, I think, for some of the movie rights on the book.
Navigating the female universe, and it's kind of a little bit of a comedy, but Mark he penned this. This is his second book, and it might help explain the love they had for one another, the hand-holding, as you mentioned. They were a kind of a Cupid type. They were a romantic type couple. So that's a good little book there, and if you could catch a copy of it.
And I remember with Mark, we had them over for dinner. We're sitting at the dinner table, and he tells us about writing his book about, he calls it what? Female universe. And I couldn't get over how right on and how cool it was, how much he knew about women and relationships, and it was amazing.
This is a good little piece that in kind of like in military circles, you do an operating procedure. Mark came up with this idea and penned it, and it's a pocket guide to Rotary leaders. And what he did is he sent this to Evanston, which is the International Office of Rotary International. Proved it could be given, and this wasn't to make money. This was just a training aid. And there's 34,000 presidents in the world, and if this was something that would benefit them, and when you look at the little bullet points in here, this is a simple little pocket book that you could stick in your coat.
On Tuesday mornings, a group of us meet at the Village Wheel restaurant, and it's anywhere from 5 to 15 guys. Sometimes we've had 20 guys there. And Mark never missed, if he was in town, he did not miss the Table of Knowledge meeting. And this is made up of a very diverse group of individuals, I'm going to say. And if you ever want to know anything, you can come to the Table of Knowledge and ask, because we will have an answer for you. Mark, everybody that came to the Table of Knowledge, a lot of times we get new people that somebody invites. Everybody just pays their own check, and we shoot the bull. You talk to whoever you want to talk to. And about no matter who you could bring into the Table of Knowledge from the area, Mark knew them. Mark just seemed to know everybody in the entire town.
I'm convinced that Mark would have continued to try to get Bull Shoals and the area improved and shaken up and kind of drug into the 21st century.
He supported the small town family business.
Bull Shoals, Arkansas. I mean, he lived it. He loved it.
Yeah.
It's good for a community, and not just the artist. Whatever your community is not going to be much of a community if you don't treat the arts well. That's what we believe, and Cheryl believed that. Mark did, I'm sure, because he worked also with artists when he did the chili cook-off, for the Rotary Club, and they had booths. He would get artists there.
Dina and Kevin got very involved in the community as trying to raise money for the fireworks. So I think that's when Mark started seeing Kevin in a whole new light, my son. He used to always tell me, be very proud of what he's becoming, because he was following on his dad and I and his grandfather with our family and raising money for the fireworks show. So that was always a big thing with Kevin. They said no fireworks, and he said the heck no. So Kevin and Dina started a poker run. And when they started that poker run, boy, Mark was just so interested and enthused. And
he jumped in the middle of everything.
He just had to get involved. And the poker run was a big push. It was a big fundraiser for the fireworks.
We were involved with Friends of the River, and Mark was doing a visioning project for Bull Shoals. And so even though we don't live in Bull Shoals, we're in that magic circle. And so they invited us to come, and Al didn't go, but I went. And I was blown away by his competence in handling that kind of process of getting input from a lot of people, keeping us on track, moving it along, and went to the final meeting that they had at the Bull Shoals Theater.
A large part of the reason we're in Bull Shoals is because Mark and Cheryl turned us on to Bull Shoals, Arkansas.
Community, he was very involved within the community. He cared. He cared about people.
He cared about Bull Shoals.
Families. He cared about Bull Shoals.
He cared about our future of Bull Shoals.
He cared about this whole community. I don't know if you can actually express how much he did care.
He's involved in Rotary, he's involved in his church. But as far as what we know, he was really involved with his family. He's so proud of his family.
He's not one to say, oh, this community's going nowhere, I'm out of here. I think he would still be there.
It's hard to talk about Mark because we did care about him and his family. We still do. 4th of July came, and I wish I had the picture of it because I took a picture, but the biggest bomb we blew off this year had his name all over it. But before it went off that day, well, his father started the fireworks show with him a long, long time ago, so every year we put John's name on one bomb. My mom's name made it to a bomb one year when she passed away, and Dolores made it to a bomb. And,
it's just
Mark was so excited about the kids raising the money for the fireworks that he couldn't be there to see it, so we sent him a bomb.
We sent one up. Actually, him and Dad both were up there because we had a nasty storm that was coming in that night. I mean, he was coming, and about 10 minutes before we'd light it off, the thing all went north of us and dissipated, and so we can go ahead and shoot them off that night. So they both had a little hand in that, I would say. Kind of cleared the skies so we can continue.
And it's a really sad thing for this community to lose those two people. They were such a positive influence on everybody they knew, us, all of our friends in common, everybody just loved them, wanted to be with them anytime they could. They're just nice people. And this community's gonna really feel the loss of them.
She takes care of her mom and dad. She orders medication for them, vitamins for them, to help her dad. Her dad has COPD real bad. And she's ordered the probiotics to help him, and he's been doing wonderfully on it. She looks after him. She and Mark went down and put windows in the house and fixed it up. And the girls, she was always there. She talked to her girls probably every day, just to talk. And
Mark helped the young guys, Christy's husband, with kind of teaching him how to build and how to use his hands. And I think we had just started working with Stephanie's new husband.
Ryan.
So they were back and forth and tickled to death with the grandchildren.
Yeah, Mark always wanted a boy, and he finally got that grandson. He was tickled when he got sons-in-law, but when he got that grandson, boy, he was just beaming.
I don't know, Mark Mark just hit home with us just because that's the way he was. He'd talk about his family, but he was truly interested in mine just the same. So when he came in here, it wasn't just about fishing, it was, how are you, how's Steve, how's the kids? We had a conversation about the family. He was really interested in my son and Dina. They just got married, so he was always comparing, the two marriages and when was I going to be a grandparent, and boy, you just can't wait to be that grandparent because, and then he'd flip out that dang phone, and I thought, I've got a dog. I got 2 dogs out of the deal and no grandkids. So he just kept saying, someday you're going to catch up, and when he'd see Dina, you're not getting any younger, funny little things like that. And
family time was important to him.
Yeah. But he was just really proud of that new grandbaby. Boy, he was just.
And they were actually coming up here for 4th of July, and they had some things rented, and had a pontoon rented.
Well, the day that he passed, he was down here. He always came here. He came here that morning. He talked to Kevin and Dina and congratulated them on the fireworks. Flipped out that picture, was showing what it'd be like to be a Father's Day, and kind of edging him on with that baby thing. Look at Father's Day, Kevin. It's awesome. And they were kind of joking around that day about being a father and how great it was. And
didn't make it.
Volume 2 will have more information about the Dobbs family.
But when I met Cheryl and Mark, they struck me as being different than other people. And I was real interested in their history. They were kids. They fell in love as kids in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. And take off from there, and Mark, both of them have an IQ that goes off the scale somewhere. I mean, I could see that right away, that they were both extremely confident, extremely smart, but yet simple, direct people. You can tell when two people really like each other a lot and really love each other, and they were that kind of people. I know a lot of people who don't, and you see the contrast easily.
Take my dogs for a ride down to the park, down to the Bull Shoals State Park. I'd see Mark and his wife walking through the park holding hands, and that was kind of surprising because here's a couple, I didn't know how long they'd been married. I know very little of Cheryl, but they were a couple that were just very compatible with each other and very happy with each other. And to see a lengthy marriage like this act like a couple of teenage kids in love was just kind of shocking to an old guy like me.
We'd gone to a dance, and Mark and Cheryl and Ronnie Karchmer and I, and we were all dancing. I look up, and Ronnie had just disappeared. I don't know where he went. And then Mark and Cheryl just snapped right away and came over and put their arms around me, and the 3 of us danced together. So it was just, they were quick to realize the situation. they would always just rush in and help you mow your lawn or take your dog to the vet or work late or whatever you needed them to do. And they never asked, they just did it. They were absolutely wonderful, wonderful people.
Mark and Cheryl loved one another, and they shared that with everyone. Family was the most important thing in their lives. Their grandkids, and that day I knew that the only thing important are the people we love. And they loved each other unconditionally.
They just were, you know, awesome, warm, loving, giving people. You know, just so, they just put themselves out there for you. You know, it was all about everybody else, not them. Just true salt of the earth people.
And I remember when we were at the chili cook-off, and it's a bunch of rednecks around having chili, and it's just, it's, you know, but it's a big deal around here. And we were walking, and Mark and Cheryl were there, and of course and this is just last summer, and Mark excused himself because he was going to go and say hi to a pretty prestigious man in the area. And Cheryl finished her conversation with me and said, well, I think I need to go over with Mark and meet this gentleman as well. So she excused herself and she walked over. And I watched them, and Mark said, Mr. Wood, this is my wife, Cheryl, and she just keeps getting more beautiful and I just keep getting more old. That's how he introduced his wife of 30-some years. Still, he didn't say, this is my wife, Cheryl. He complimented her, and they held hands, and it was just, and that's the Mark and Cheryl that I know. I know the man who treasured his wife. Everybody in the community knew that he did, regardless of who he talked to, regardless of stopping at the floral shop to talk with Garvey, you know, or all the other hens. And everybody knew that he treasured his wife because they always held hands, because they were always together.
And Cheryl was the same way. She was right there behind him.
Everywhere he was.
Everywhere he was, she was.
And we had a golfing / fishing weekend. And he played golf, and we were at dinner that night, and he said something about, you know, he came up and talked to me, and he said, you know, I wish that our spouses were invited because I'd really like to have my wife here. And I thought right then, wow, you know, he is a man that truly, truly wanted to be around his wife and loved her. And you could always tell whenever they were together, he, you know, just treated her like a queen. I mean, she was his life, and she equally loved him.
Cheryl wanted chairs made out of wooden skis.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was hard to find, the real wooden skis. They didn't want any fiberglass on them, they wanted real wooden skis. So
water skis.
Took on the job. They found enough water skis, and he made those chairs, and you should take pictures of those. They are a work of art.
Are they at their house?
At their house.
Right.
They're gorgeous. And he figured out how to put them together and make it, and whatever Cheryl dreamed up like that and got interested in doing, he'd figure out how to make it work, you know. And the next project she wanted to do, she was showing us pictures on Pinterest. She loved Pinterest. And she had picked out some pictures of a landscaping project that she wanted down below their house and close to the lake. And so that was going to be, I could see it on the wall. He was going to be down there digging and putting rocks, whatever, because, you know, she'd dream it up and he'd do it.
They were both just so alive with, you could just feel the energy around them, and you know, it's just everything that they worked so hard for, and Dad is just gone. Her life will never be the same. They did everything together. They were soulmates and very courteous to each other, and you know, you could tell that they were meant to be together, and now they're not. And Cheryl's I don't even know what to say. It's horrible. It's just horrible.
Well, I hope that Cheryl's going to be back to us like she was before. But I know that she's still filled with love for those children. And she recognizes them when they come to visit and talks to them. And she said the other day that Kieran told Kieran that she was a special girl. And I know that she'll still be able to give them a lot of love. And I'm sure she'll be able to give them guidance, and she'll be able to tell them stories about their papa that nobody else could tell. And Mark could have taught his grandson, and he already was teaching his granddaughter how to fish and enjoy the lake, and how to be a good friend to people and a good community servant. And they could have taught him a lot. I'm sorry.
Well, we loved Mark and Cheryl. We love them.
They're our very best friends. It's not going to seem right without Mark. Our card games, we always played pinochle.
I promised Mark that I would look after Cheryl and the kids. Because I know he would do the same.
Yeah.
Damn it.
We have provided defense counsel with full transcripts of each witness contained in this documentary. We intend to call each witness at trial. Volume 2 will contain video footage of the Dobbs family and will be produced before Christmas.